Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Unnext News Radio podcast, your news source for all things unexplained. And now, here's your host for the Unnext News podcast, Margie K.
Hello and welcome to Unnext News on the KUNX Digital Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Margie K. Strange phenomena seems to be on the uptick lately, and we've got some new articles up on the Unnext blog that are worth checking out. Just go to www.unxnetwork.com and click on blog to read the latest paranormal news. Get a free subscription on the website to receive blog notices and a digital copy of Unnext magazine for free, and that is a quarterly magazine. The next Unnext special presentation is this Saturday, December the 10th at 2 p.m. Central Time on Zoom. Martha Hazard Decker will present The Hill House Murders and Hauntings, and boy, is it worth it. The charge is just $2.99, and if you register in advance and miss the live presentation, watch it anytime on demand. Read more about it on the Unnext blog. Now for some news items. Public UFO archives are coming soon. Albuquerque, New Mexico will soon become the home of a National UFO Archive. The National UFO Historical Records Center will house UFO case files, photos, ufologist collections, and artifacts. The archives will also be digitized, which will allow researchers better results in less time. Be sure to enter the Best Ghost Story contest by December 15th and the Best Decorated Holiday House by December 22nd. Winners will receive some nice Unnext swag. So don't miss those. My guest this evening is John Yost, senior producer at RYNO Pictures. John's career began under the jurisprudence of the U.S. Treasury Department. During that process, he attained his U.S. Customs broker's license and occasionally was a paid consultant to the FBI in international trade matters. After 10 successful years, the work lost its appeal. He left his position and sought another opportunity and childhood dream that would equally challenge him, and that was film. Within 4 years, John had successfully earned invitations into every national arts organization, the Screen Actors Guild, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, and the Actors Equity Association, and the American Guild of Musical Artists. John joined the team of RYNO Production and began the foundation work that would eventually become RYNO Pictures. In addition to hundreds of projects that he has written and directed, John also produced several films, and Alien Abduction Answers is his watershed project, where he was finally able to tell the true story of what happened to him as a child. Welcome to the program, John.
Thank you very much for having me, Margie. I really appreciate you and your audience. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for sharing the film with me. I was pleasantly surprised, and the film was very, very, very well done. But you had a story to tell, and you did it in a fantastic way. So let's start at the beginning. I guess while you were working on some other projects, something major happened. What was that?
Yes. This film, as I mentioned to you earlier, is kind of an accident. I had an experience when I was 7 years old that really affected me my entire life, but I had lied about it and obfuscated, not mentioned it. And I was in my job, and we were doing a shoot, and we were in a place called Borrego Springs, California. And for folks who don't know where that is, that's in the middle of a desert, really. It's very flat, it's arid. And we had been doing a night shoot and had come back to this very large ranch house that we had rented for everybody because it was in the middle of nowhere. There were about 15 or 17 folks with us. And so my team and I, we were inside, and we were downloading materials, making sure that we we're going to have some redundancy. We didn't want to lose anything. And I walked out into the back where there was a pool. And this is in the middle of the evening after we were done, about like 1 or 2 in the morning. And they were having a nightcap. So they offered me one. And as I raised my glass to make a toast, I saw this glint of light in the glass. And your mind tries to identify these things when they happen. And so I'm thinking, oh well, that's the moon. And I went, wait a minute, it's not the moon. But we shot tonight because it was a new moon. There was no moon in the sky. We wanted to control the light. And I said, what is this? And as I dropped the glass, I was completely blown away. Above this ranch house, this one floor building, was this blue green self luminous thing. And I have to tell you, I lost my mind. I did not know what the hell I was looking at. And it, my mind once again is trying to figure out what this is. And I thought, oh, this is a mylar balloon, like a get well balloon or a happy birthday balloon. And then my mind is checking me and said, wait a minute, this thing is as big as a Volkswagen. This is not a mylar. What the hell is this? I grab one of my camera guys who was sitting right beside me, Scotty, and I turn him and he says, what the? And just then, all the people around the pool turned to see what was going on. And you hear among the crowd, oh my God, what is that? Is that a UFO? What the heck is it? All this other stuff. Margie, this thing moves from a total standstill above that building in a zigzag in seconds. I mean, milliseconds. And it stops above my head. And I don't know how long it was there. It could have been there a moment. It could have been there an hour. I don't know. But something happened to me. I could feel a feeling that I hadn't felt since I was a little boy. And it scared me to my core. Well, this thing zips away from me about 20 feet away, and everybody is still continuing their conversation like, what is this? Oh my God, this sort of thing. And then it just stops, and then it slowly drifts off the desert. And as I said, this thing was very flat. It was a very flat area. We watched it for a minute and a half. Well, excuse me.
How was it right over your head?
Well, when it first appeared, it was above the house. It was above the house that we were renting. And then when it zigzagged, it stopped right above my head. And the feeling that I had, it scared the hell out of me because I remembered it from being a little boy. And so everybody is kind of buzzing about, what did we just see and this and this. But I was shaking so hard inside that I had to excuse myself. And I made some stupid excuse about, oh, I'm an old man and you guys are young whippersnappers and can stay drinking all night, but I got to go. I went back to that room and I barricaded the door with the bed. I pushed and my luggage, and then I sat in a corner and I cried. I cried like a little baby, and it's a little embarrassing, but I wasn't dealing with what happened like a 50-year-old guy. I was dealing with it like a 7-year-old kid, reliving this thing and processing it for the first time. And so my job requires you to be very, very intent. A lot of very important decisions to make, and of course, you're using other people's money on a basis, and so it's very important to do the right thing. So I was furious with myself that I could not stop. Um, I could not stop shaking. I could not stop being afraid. And so I woke up early the next morning. I slept fitfully, maybe a half an hour. I don't know. And I took a hot shower, went out there, and I immediately experienced something horrible. I could not be under open sky, and I could not be near water. It's it scared the hell out of me, and it really affected my job. Part of what I do is location scouting,
Oh
and so
gosh.
right, so I can't go out by myself, so I'm making people go with me. It got so bad that when I got back to the East Coast, the people knew that there was something wrong because something was different about me. But I would park right next to the door and run into the door, or if I couldn't do that, I would wait until there were other people in the parking lot, and I would run up to them so they could help me go into the office. And so I became obsessed with trying to defeat this overcoming fear. And so the kind of work that I do, you would see on, I don't know, Esquire and ABC and NBC, or cooking networks or something like this. Okay, just run of the mill television production. And so this film was not something that I said, we need to make this film. It was kind of an outgrowth of me trying to heal myself, a catharsis, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to talk to other people who had had experiences, and those conversations led to putting them on tape, and then led to me finally being brave enough to share my experiences with them. And then I realized that there was a piece of it. I mean, I could remember everything except a major piece in the middle, and I had to get to the bottom of it. And so when I finally agreed to be regressed by a wonderful, wonderful woman who is a quantum healing hypnosis therapist, her name is Deb Shakti. Um,
Yeah, Deb says she's been on this program,
oh,
and she's
well,
a friend of mine. So,
I consider
I,
her a real guardian angel.
oh, she's the real deal.
Yeah, uh, sweet person. And also, you hear people bandy about this term like Christ consciousness. She really has it. She's that person, inside and out. And I love her. I think she's a wonderful person. Anyway, she she said, "Listen, John, I can help you with this. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to teach you how to relax enough so you can open the doors that you've locked."
Mm-hmm.
And when she did, I knew the truth. All the facts that I knew were real, but they weren't clear, and now they're crystal clear. And so that's what this film is about. It's not necessarily just my story. It's about this whole group of phenomena, because there are so many people around the world who have experienced some sort of encounter with, quote unquote, other.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to make certain that the people understood that, it wasn't, my answers. It was me searching for answers. And some very, very brave people shared with me their stories, and they're in the film. But that's kind of how the film came together. It wasn't preconceived. It was actually it was a necessary healing process for me, and I'm still recovering from it, and trying to find more answers.
You know, a lot of people have a spontaneous memory,
Mm.
like what you mentioned. What you're just doing something mundane, and all of a sudden you see something that reminds you, and then this whole memory comes back of something that happened to you in your past, and it's pretty common among abductees for that to happen. They suppress the memories for years, and then something triggers it, and then you've got to deal with it.
Yeah, I part of the film, as you know, Mr. Whitley Strieber is featured in the film, and one of the things he shared with the audience, and he shared with me in my interactions with him, is the reason that this is so difficult for us as humans is it literally crushes the ego. We have this kind of idea that that we're in control. We wake up in the morning and we press a button and we get coffee. And then we pick up this little machine and we can talk to anybody in the world, and we get into our air conditioned car and all this other stuff. But the truth of the matter is that we're a speck on a speck on a speck on a speck on a speck in the middle of this huge ocean of space. And I think to function, we kind of isolate ourselves with this idea that we're the top of the, food chain, or in total
Mm-hmm.
control. And really what we're doing is we're participating with a complete world that we're just unaware of. And I think it's kind of a defensive mechanism for us to ignore it or to suppress those ideas and those encounters, as you mentioned. Somebody said to me, "Do you think do you think more and more people are having these experiences? And personally, I don't know. Like I said, I'm searching for answers. I'm not a guy with answers, but I have an idea. I had talked to another gentleman, another really, really smart guy, Ray Hernandez. I'm sure you know him.
Yes.
And he had said something to me I thought was really, really, really intuitive. He said, John, there are a lot of people who deny these phenomena. He said, but I challenge them. I like to put 100 people that they know in a room and just ask them to say, listen, you know, in your lifetime, is there anything that you remember that you can't quite explain, that was beyond the pale, that's something you couldn't control, or those details? He said, invariably, a majority of people will say it. So I have this kind of idea, extrapolate from that maybe everybody has some sort of encounter with this other. And just more people are finally tuning the dial or taking the shields off of their filters to see it, to experience it, to acknowledge it.
I agree 100%. I think that's true. I really have. I've said for the last few years, I think it's everyone on the planet is involved, and the filters are coming down. The, if you will, remember the fifth dimension, and they talked about
Oh yeah.
moving into fifth dimension. Well, I think that's kind of what's happening. We're moving to a higher vibration, and these other beings in these other dimensions are now coming clear to us because we're moving into their dimension. Anyway, that's my opinion. But
No, I think you're right on.
Ray and I agree on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Not everything, but on a lot of things, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as people wake up, if they have one little experience, like when you were a kid, you had that experience, and it's with you forever.
Yes.
And now you realize we're not alone. And maybe we're not in control of everything, like you said.
Yeah. And trying to understand that, first of all, is really what this film, Alien Abduction Answers, is all about. It's about taking the viewer, I say the world because I'm ambitious, but I mean the viewer, from that ignorance of what's going on, which sometimes leads to fear, as you know, and taking people from that to some sense of understanding. Of course, not a complete understanding. This thing is huge.
Yeah.
Margie, you and I are close in age, and so I'm going to say something to make you smile. I hear a lot of people today say things like, "This is my truth." Now, back when we were kids, if you would have said that, that would have meant, well, you have an opinion that no one else shares, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today, it means something so emotional and I used to be really short-tempered with folks like that. But I have to tell you something. I had an epiphany, and I'd like to share it with you. You know that old analogy where you take three of the smartest people in the world, you throw them in a room. It's totally black in there, and you say, "Hey, what's in there?" And somebody says, "Oh, it's a whip." Somebody says, "No, no, no. Are you crazy? This is a snake." Somebody says, "Are you crazy? This is a boulder." And you turn on the light, and it's an elephant. Now, the nuance, you know how they say the devil's in the details. Here's the
Yeah.
nuance of this thing. These, once again, our presupposition is these are the smartest people in the world. So, number one, they're not fabricating this. Okay, they're not practicing duplicity or subterfuge. What they're doing is they are accurately reporting what they're experiencing as much as they can, as much as their arms will wrap around it. And not only wrap around it, they have to digest it, they have to understand it, and then they have to come up with the words to convey it. Now, each one of those people would have planted their flag and fought you to the death because they were reporting their truth. They weren't trying to lie. They weren't trying to manipulate you. They were trying to tell you the truth as they knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's a good point.
I think the wisdom of this is that we all have to say, look, we're going to accept you for telling your truth and stand back. But you don't own it, and I don't own it, and you don't own it. Let's put all of these things together, and we're going to have a clearer picture of what we're dealing with. That's what I think we have to do. Because I think that this phenomena is not a single phenomenon. It is a
Yeah.
group of things. And because now we have a heightened awareness, we are picking up other things and other things and other things. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
microscope was not invented just to find the cell, right? Oh my God, there's a bacteria there too. Oh, that's a virus. You know, there are all these other things that dwell in that realm.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's kind of funny too, because I deal with, I never made the film to convince anybody of anything. You know, tell me I'm full of crap. Okay, yeah, okay, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Thank you. But I say to them this, I say, look, you know, 500 years ago, 600 years ago, they thought illness was caused by evil spirits, right? Along comes the invention of the microscope, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's a question. Were viruses and bacteria, did they spontaneously create themselves the moment that the microscope came along? Or were they always there? They were always there.
It's a good analogy.
We needed to come to that level to understand it, to see it, to really examine it. And even when we first saw it, we didn't know what the hell we were looking at.
Yeah.
And we had to study it and we had to contemplate it. And that's what I think we're close to now. That people are getting past the question of, well, that's bunk. No, people are saying, wait a second. I saw that thing on the cover of the Times. I heard that congressional hearing. What the
Right.
hell are these people looking at? What are they looking for? And they're not only just looking, they're looking with expectation because other people have seen the stuff, and they're looking with kind of almost like a duty because now there's a way to report that sort of thing. And so that paradigm shift, I think, assists in what you had suggested that more and more people are just realizing it. They'd always experienced it, but maybe they're finally realizing it.
Do you think we have more Skywatchers now because of the publicity and the coming out of the subject?
Sure, sure. And you know, I alluded to this a little earlier about, you know, for me there were always like three buckets of people, right? You had the what I pay, you know, the people who stare at their shoes. You know, folks like you and I are idiots and we wear tinfoil hats, right? And then you had these really, really smart people who sit around campfires with their pipe and smoking jacket talking about, well, I guess mathematically it's possible, but how could they get here from there? And what does this have to do with me? Right. And then you had a bunch of people like us going, holy crap, this is happening. It's affecting us. Look at it, study it. Now,
Yeah.
with all of this, you know, it's kind of like a false disclosure in some ways, you know, because they, you know, the government does two things, you know, with taxes and it controls everything it can. So information is one of the things it controls, right? So they're holding on to it for a bunch of reasons, but whatever. But when they finally said, well, you know, we kind of lied. Yeah, we have had these views and we have had these reports. So now, if you take a look at these groups of people again, the shoe watchers who say, you know, what the hell are they looking at? They look up with that expectation. They look up with that kind of sense of duty. You have these philosophizers who sit around with the pipe and say, well, what does it have to do with me? Wait a minute, they're spending my tax money on that. What are they looking? So to answer your question, I think so many more people are looking up. And not
Mm-hmm.
only, and I think you'll really appreciate this, they're not only looking up, they're looking in, they're looking around, they're quieting their mind, they're stopping from answering the question, and they're finally just listening. And I think this is the key. We fill our world with our own voices. And if, you know, if I know everything, then I can't learn anything. If I have the greatest opinions
Right.
in the world, nobody can teach me anything. And
Right.
this is so important. We
And
have to shush and learn.
let's definitely get into that after the break.
Yes,
We're going to
miss.
take a short break here, and we'll be back right after this. Are you thinking about purchasing a wood-fired heating or cooking appliance but don't know where to start? The new book, Wood-Fired Heating and Cooking, will guide you through the process and make the decision much easier. Find out about wood stoves, wood-burning fireplace inserts, masonry heaters, cook stoves, brick ovens, and more. Learn about operation and maintenance, buying and storing wood, even how to make your own charcoal. A bonus section includes delicious recipes for cooking in a wood-burning oven, grill, tandoori oven, or smoker. The wise homeowner, prepper, or homesteader will have the ability to heat their home with wood when the power goes out or to save money on increasing gas bills. Wood-Fired Heating and Cooking is available at Amazon. Visit www.woodfiredpub.com for more information. That's woodfiredpub.com.
This is not communication. It's communion. Hundreds of thousands of people have claimed contact. That will change you. It changed me.
Lost in between two worlds and two dreams.
This was something that I kept buried for years. Strange things would happen. I didn't want anything to do with it anymore.
He came at me, and I fought for my life.
Ships started to pop up in the sky.
And there's this bizarre disk of light. And it is moving across the sky very fast.
The experience is often very terrifying.
If I felt fear, I would crawl under my covers, hoping that it would go away, whatever it was.
I know that we were put in that craft. I knew I was going to go to another planet.
And the being was right next to my face.
He saw 2 shadow beings. That's when I felt like I was going to die.
I had a real encounter with something. Even if I had to live with the fear, is to know the truth, is to know.
Well, folks, we are back, but unfortunately we have lost John, and I'm hoping that he is able to get back in to the program. Hopefully he will. What we just saw was the trailer for the film that we were just talking about, Alien Abduction Answers. And I had a little talk with John before the program, and he explained to me how he had had that experience when he was a child and then blocked the memory off. And that's what a lot of us do, especially as children. We will just, our brain somehow blocks those things and then we forget about it. And then, just like what happened to him, here he is just doing a standard, normal job for the day, working on a film project, and something happens. They see something, everybody sees it, there was definitely something there, and it triggered that old memory. So he knew that he was an abductee. He knew that he was involved in that process and that experience. And he decided to make a film about it. And I've seen the film. I highly recommend it. You can get it anywhere. Just look up Alien Abduction Answers on Google, and you'll see how to get it. I believe it's on, even on Amazon, as a matter of fact. And a lot of other places as well. It was very well done. And Whitley Strieber being a part of it was huge. He didn't even know Whitley Strieber before he decided to make this film. And he called him up and they talked for a long time. And Whitley said, yeah, I'll do it. And so he did. And I think he's very brave and resourceful. And he's telling the truth about something that a lot of us have experienced. There are, as we spoke about earlier, a lot of people who have had contact. And I'm one of those people as well. I've talked about it before on this program. I haven't talked about everything on the show. I'm working on a book right now, which is probably going to be about 300 pages long because of all the experiences that I've had. And the one thing that really has helped me and would probably help you if you are a contactee is talking to other people about it. It's just sitting around and having a conversation with other people who have had similar experiences. And don't try to overthink it, because honestly, this intelligence is so much further advanced than we are that we're not probably ever going to know the entirety of it or what it means. There's so much involved. There are multiple different types of extraterrestrials. There are interdimensional beings. And like John mentioned earlier, there are other things that come along with this. There isn't just the microscope looking at cells. There are all these other things that come with it. And like Ray Hernandez says, you get all the other things. And what that means is, as you raise your vibration and as you have experiences, you are connecting with higher dimensions. And along in those higher dimensions are spirits of people who have passed on, maybe guides who have never been in a human body, or maybe they have. There are angelic beings, very, very high vibration beings in these other dimensions. And besides that, there are also animals. I have a portal at my house, which I found out about shortly after I moved into it in 1987. And my daughter and I could both see the portal. Other people could feel it. And some of us have seen things come in and out of it, including a little teeny tiny field mouse and all of these things are all black, by the way, except for the ETs, which I'll tell you about in just a minute. Little tiny field mouse that came out of the portal off of my deck outside, jumped through my glass door, that's a sliding glass door, ran through the house, and then my cat started chasing it. Now we're talking about a little black shadow mouse, okay? And talk about shock. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. It ran through the house, and I had my electric bass in its case in the living room, and it jumped into it, just right through it, and was gone. And my cat was pawing at the bass case trying to get to the mouse. I mean, it was hilarious. And it, in thinking back about it, it's some of these things are just funny because they're not things that happen to you every day. Now, I've also seen, I was just talking today to my assistant about this black panther that comes in and out. And I mean, it's a big cat, and there's nothing else like it. It's no doubt in my mind that is a black panther going in, going out of the portal. But yesterday, and now up until last night, in fact, this morning at 6 a.m., up until that time, this entire time, I've only seen creatures go in and out of the portal on the deck. Okay? But it must be bigger than that. And it must go through the house or something. Because this morning, I woke up at 6 a.m., which is really, really early for me. People might believe me. My husband will tell you. I'm not getting up at 6 o'clock. Okay? I knew I had to get up and look out the window in my bedroom. So I looked through the window, and I see John's back, and we'll get him in because I'm going to finish telling this story. I looked through the window, and there's a weird cloud in the sky that I'm looking at, and there's just sunlight just barely kind of lighting up the sky. And I'm wondering what the heck that cloud is when I see out of my peripheral vision down low this giant panther headed right for me. And I looked at it, and I got a good look at it, for a second or two, and it was floating 4 feet off the ground. And here it is coming through a fence. So it came through a solid object and then just disappeared in front of my eyes. And so here we have, we have something interdimensional going on with experiencers like me, that we also see things like that. So anyway, let me, get John back. What happened, John?
Margie, I'm going to tell you something. You went to the break. I was watching all of your wonderful graphics, and I thought, wow, I didn't realize how many shows were on your network. By the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
All of a sudden, blip, my internet went away, my phone died, everything died here, and I thought, wait a minute, I didn't kick a plug or anything.
Wow.
I checked all my connections. They were all on. I had to reboot my entire system. I apologize. I don't know what the heck happened.
Oh my goodness. Well, I feel then. So I was just mentioning, how you and I were talking earlier about how all of these other things start happening to you as well, yes, as you're waking up. And one of the things that I was talking about is these interdimensional creatures that come in and out of a portal at my house. And it's just it's weird. It's high strangeness, but you learn to live with it. That becomes normal everyday life. Does it do the same? Is that the same for you?
You know, Margie, you had mentioned to me off air about, your lifelong interactions with this. And I think I buried my head in the sand for so many years. And not to get too personal, but sometimes I feel like I've wasted my life. But I thought that, my experience when I was 7, when I went through regression, I found out that the reason that I fought it was because it had happened several times before, and that I recognized why that cat was there. He was going to take me again, and I didn't want to go as a little boy. So that's why I fought it. But I thought, dealing with it and putting it out there, I kind of like Pontius Pilate, washing my hands of it. I felt like I had been relieved, and I didn't think that I would have any more kind of interaction at all. Well, the film gets released, and I start to notice inconsistencies, like weird things start to happen to me. And here's a couple. I work about an hour and I want to say 15 minutes from my home. And I've worked there for 13 years. And I travel the same way every day. And it takes me an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes to get there. It doesn't take me 3 hours. It doesn't take me 4 or 5 hours. I would end up on a road that I had no idea why I was there. I don't know how the hell I got there. I'm thinking to myself, what? I would be late for work. People would say, "Where are you?" I have I have no idea why I'm here. And I would end up in these places like this. And I thought, this kind of, and I've heard, this is my term, I'm sure somebody else going to, this high strangeness type thing, these weird sort of things. I think what happens is, like we said about that microscope, the moment that you realize that, there are cells, then you start to realize, wait a second, there's stuff inside that cell. There's stuff over here. There's stuff over here. And I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna sound really stupid because I don't know. I sense that everything that we as humans are experiencing is some form of communication, some sort of message conveyance back and forth. And so what I think is happening is that when you are sensitive or more sensitive to those messages, then more and more sources or more and more things realize that you're receptive to those things, and they zero in on you. The
Bingo.
best way I can explain it is this. I hear about all these people who do CE5, where they get together and they have a protocol and all this other stuff. And I wondered to myself, how could that work? Like, why would that ever work? And I'm thinking to myself, if you and I were in the zoo and we're walking past, I'll make it up, the muskrat cage, and this muskrat comes over to the side and we're looking at him, he's an awfully cute little guy, and he waves at us. Well, we'd look at each other kind of funny and say, isn't that cute? He's waving. So we might wave back. And then all of a sudden he does this. This is the smartest muskrat I've ever seen. And so we'd start to play some pantomime games with this, and we would soon realize that this muskrat was conscious, sentient. There was something they were trying to convey to us, and that would attract our attention. And I don't care who you are, you'd bring your friends. You'd want to say, "Look at this crazy muskrat. You've got to see this muskrat." I make up this stupid, silly story to say this. These people with good hearts who are putting out that kind of energy is a communication. And I think what's happening is that like-minded entities that have higher consciousness, that's their modus operandi of communication. Notice that. What is that? And they're attracted to it. And they sense that that communication is there, and so they reciprocate with, yes, we are here. Hello, I'll wave back at you. Yes, I will engage with you. This is a stage of your development, and this is something we approve of. I just get that sense. I don't know. I could be talking out of my rear end, but I have this
I
feeling that that's the case.
I think you're right. I felt that way for a long time. When they notice that you notice them, then they're going to initiate contact. You're going to have more contact. You know, they're doing the best they can to communicate. It's a matter of us learning how to do that and raising our vibration to that point where we can do that.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned. I don't mean funny. I mean ironic. I was talking to somebody, and they were poo-pooing this whole idea, and I said, this reminds me of radio, and maybe it's appropriate I talk about it now because it's radio. I said, if I just put a box on the table and said, listen, there are voices that come out of this box. Well, that's kind of a crazy claim. And they said, well, I don't hear any voices. Well, you have to power it up. Well, you power it up. Well, I don't hear any voices. Well, now you have to turn it on. And after you turn it on, not only do you have to turn it on, you have to tune it. Now, that's not magic. That's not paranormal. That's tech. That's what we are. We have to, number one, realize that we're a box of receiving and transmission. Number two, we have to turn ourselves on. We have to allow ourselves to be turned on.
Mm-hmm.
And number three, we have to accept the fact that we have to tune ourselves to those vibrations to pick up those things. It makes perfect sense to us when we think about solid state machinery like a radio. Well, why doesn't it apply to us? And it seems so clear to me. I mean, the world is covered by all these different languages. If you went to a foreign language, you went to a foreign country and they only spoke, make it up, German, right? You'd have to kind of learn their language to be able to communicate with them. And I think that this is the brilliant thing. I think this is why in a large portion of these communications that the spoken word isn't used. If you want to tell a joke or really communicate to somebody something, you tell them a joke because it's nuanced. That's a mastery of that language. Things are communicated universally through music, through color, through sound, through emotion. And everybody understands what it is to be happy. I don't care how jaded you are. You understand what happiness is. You don't understand what love is. You understand what hate is. And I think this is what this is. That they have been able to master this communication of emotion and can project it. And we are learning to pick that up. That we don't have to just use our mouth. It's only one portion of communication. A lot of people say the eyes are the windows to the soul, right? So just as you hear my voice, you're looking at, this goofy stack of books behind me that tries to make me look smart, or these curtains or whatever. And it's the visual, it's the tone, it's the colors. You're a musician, so you understand about vibration and tone and sound. All of these things are important. And so I think this is their attempt to kind of step down and our attempt to kind of step up. I don't know, but this is me grasping at answers. I don't have them. I'm searching for them.
Have your communications been telepathic?
I'll tell you this, when I went through the film and I did the regression, there were no words exchanged. Everything was telepathic. Everything was emotion. Everything was color. Everything was a picture. You've seen the film, so you know that I was kind of suspended and these screens were flashed to me. But there were no words and there was no message laid out for me. It was kind of, I hate to use this word download, but I don't know another word. But it was kind of downloaded, put into my subconscious. I was teasing with you earlier about me being so anal retentive. And I was always that way, even as a little boy. And I remember being angry at these entities because the images that they were showing to me were going from right to left. And I was 7. So I was learning cursive writing. And of course, I speak English. So it's left to right. And I was mad at them that they were doing it wrong. I was pissed off at them.
Oh
Isn't
my
that funny?
gosh. They're doing it wrong.
They were
Mhm.
doing it wrong. But you know what I thought afterwards, now, after thinking about it and making the film and stuff, I thought, you know what? Maybe this is, once again, kind of a genius thing. You have your conscious mind and you have your subconscious mind, and your conscious mind is kind of trained to be the guard, and refuse things and block things out. And your subconscious is picking up all these other pieces of information all around you. I thought, isn't that interesting? Maybe what they were doing was on purpose, occupying my conscious mind so that information between those images could be fed to me uninterrupted. And I thought, wow, if that's not what they were doing, that's what they should do. That's a brilliant idea. I don't know. I don't know. That's just a guess. Just a guess. Yeah.
A lot of
Thank-
experiencers have said that they see visions, they see pictures, or they see video, or they're shown a screen. I know I have. That's happened to me. Sometimes without hearing anything, but there are times when I do get a telepathic, sentences, speaking in English, of course. Have they ever showed you something that would happen, or that was going to happen, or turned out to be something in the future that came true?
Well, I don't. I'll tell you this. I'm sorry to keep referring back to the film, but in the end of the film, you see kind of the result of the regression. There was a section there where I was told through images, whatever, that there is an event that is, or a series of events that are imminent, that are going to make it impossible to deny the phenomena anymore. People speculate, they question, they hint, they whisper behind each other's backs. But it's, but people can still doubt. You just see it on the cover of the Time, whatever. Oh, but that could be Russian, or that could be China, or whatever. But there's going to be an event and series of events. And this would be everything in the human experience. And what I mean by that is this: it will be the best of times and the worst of times. There will be death, there will be joy, there will be love, there will be hate, there will be fear, because there are people who are in different stages of development all the way through who will react in different ways. Some will panic. Some will open arms and say, "Bye, geez, oh man, you guys are late. What the heck?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You guys been
Yeah,
talking
they're a
to me
little late.
for 30 years. What the heck? And in a way, and I know this sounds, and I really try to eschew these types of things, but it really sounds like self-aggrandizing. I don't mean me. I mean like people like yourself. You have not only taken the information in, recognized it, integrated it, but also you've ascended to this place where this is your reality. So, you're saying, well, welcome to the party, everybody, right? There are going to be people who need your kind of guidance, need Deb's guidance, who say, "Oh my God, I thought you were a kook, and what do I do? How do I deal with this? How do I realize this in my life?" And I think that's part of what's going on, is that those connections with people who are more and more sensitive to it, they kind of recognize this and say, "Okay, well, look, you guys might be in third grade where everybody else might be in first grade, and we're going to need you to kind of shepherd the rest of these cats, so everybody kind of relaxes and moves along together, so we can get to the next step." Because this is our problem for us, is that, and I'm not the first one to say it, as you know, our tech is outpaced our emotional and spiritual maturation, and we really have to kind of sync that together. We're just gonna destroy ourselves. I don't care who you are and which side of the political side we're in a lot of trouble. All we do is fight. All we do is fight.
Yeah,
And
I
we gotta stop
hope
that.
the ETs will put a stop to that. nonsense. I can't believe we've run out of time, John. This is crazy. Please
I'm
tell
sorry.
people how they can see or watch your film.
Sure. It's Alien Abduction Answers, and it's streaming all throughout North America right now. It'll be international soon. If you have a VPN, you can see it internationally. But it's on Amazon, it's on Apple, it's on iTunes, it's on YouTube, it's on every streaming service. You can Google it. You can find it on Facebook. It's everywhere if you want to see it. And please do. And I'd love to know what you think. And I made it to give myself some peace, and I hope it gives other people peace.
Well, like I said earlier, it's a fantastic film. I highly recommend it. Thank you so much for coming on the show this evening, John, and I hope to speak with you sometime soon.
I apologize again for the problems, technical.
Hey, it is what it is. Sometimes the powers that be don't want certain things shown, and they will interfere. So we just have to deal with it. This is Margie Kay with UnX News, and I'll see you here again next Friday.